It was a long time coming for our next inductee, and I met Mr. Esser a long time ago. And for me, this is a great honor just to be part of his induction ceremony, and he left too early as well. But I hope you'll enjoy the tribute that we have for Mr. George Esser, the founder of the NBL.
Once upon the early 70s, there was a motorcycle race promoter named George Esser. While running the NML, the National Motorcycle League, George's oldest son Greg asked him about racing their bikes on the track, much like what Ernie Alexander was simultaneously doing in SoCal. Esser began doing the same in Florida. By 1974, the National Bicycle League was formed, and the sport of BMX spread like wildfire. As president, George gave the sport of BMX the major boost it needed on the East Coast. And in 1980, Esser got together with the godfather of European BMX, Mr. Garrett Doze, and Japanese race promoter Tadashi Inoue. Together, they formed the IBMXF, our sport's first international sanctioning body. This historic moment would bring together the first real world championships, and would later be adopted by the UCI as the official governing body for BMX racing. Mr. Esser was also part owner of MCS Bicycles in the early days, kicking off a Florida brand that still thrives today. 2 decades later, George and son owned and operated Fab Weld in Pompano Beach, where they manufactured frames and product for many big-name companies. Sadly, on August of 2006, Alzheimer's disease took George Esser away from us. But along with his 5 sons, an everlasting legacy in the sport, his legend will live on forever. Accepting on behalf of their late great father are his sons, Greg and Brian Esser. Please stand and salute the memory of an all-time BMX industry legend, your 2013 BMX Hall of Fame inductee, George Esser.
All right, I see this timer going, but apparently, based on Rob, it's irrelevant. So that's a start. The first thing I want to say is last year when I was here, I was talking to Mike Day and his father, and it's kind of surreal for me. You know, when you're young, you think you know it all and stuff. Well, when I was 16, I guess Brian was 15 at the time, we were watching the Olympics on TV. And I remember sitting there on the couch and we're watching it, and my dad says, we're going to have BMX in the Olympics one day. And of course, like I said, I'm 16, I know it all. And I'm like, I don't know what's in your cigar, but it ain't happening. You know, but apparently, judging from that flame right there and what's happened in the last couple of Olympics, obviously he knew something. He was kind of a visionary, so to speak. So that's, you know, that for me, that's kind of cool looking back on it. The other thing that I want to mention is that, you know, my dad did stuff at the same time that Ernie Alexander was doing things. And the one thing that they had in common was, in my dad's case, was Brian and I's mom. Every crazy idea that my dad came up with, my mom would either say, you know, George, you're crazy, or that's a good idea, and that would work. Well, Ernie had the same thing with Suzanne. So, you know, you look back on it, and they had great ideas, did great things, but it would never have happened without Suzanne or our mother. So, you know, having said that, you know, I think they deserve a lot of recognition for all of this. So from that standpoint, I'm very honored to be up here. There's a few things, you know, we have, through all of this, we've all met, you know, great people. And as I was mentioning when we were at the golf tournament today is, you know, no matter how long we're away from each other, we'll come together and it'll be the same thing, like we had never been apart from each other. There's a guy sitting back there in the back that for 20 years, well, I quit racing in 1983. He's done things, and you'll have to excuse me, but for all that time, I have referred to him as shit for brains. And he's referred to me as Poodlehead. Well, I've outgrown the Poodlehead part. However, he is still shit for brains, and that would be Greg Hill. And the other side of that, as you can see, my brother standing here. We used to call him Beaker when we raced. He's grown into his nose. So, you know, things are progressing forward. The the timer, I know, it doesn't matter because Rob. Yeah. The other thing is, a while back, I got a letter from the UCI inviting me to go to Switzerland because my father was to receive an award there, a merit award. Obviously, I couldn't be there because it's the same weekend as this. So what they have done is that award is, I guess, been transferred over to here. Garrett Deuce has flown over from Holland for that. And at this moment, I'd like to bring Garrett up. He's also a Hall of Fame inductee. So if you would, thank you.
And he says he can't talk long.
There's still 2.
Oh, yeah, okay. Well, they told me I only had a few minutes, so just to be sure.
Doesn't matter. Rob went on and on.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Okay. But still, I keep to my plan. So I made a 5-minute speech, and it goes as follows. Good evening, everybody. It's absolutely great to see so many familiar faces and old friends. A lot of them stayed at my house. They were guests at my house. That's one thing. Before I go any further, I just learned from Robert Veit that his son is in the 101st Airborne Division. I can tell you, Rob, that just 10 days ago, we celebrated in my town, Eindhoven, that we were freed from the Germans by the 101st Airborne Division. And we have always a parade of old tanks, jeeps, whatever. It's incredible how much material they have. And the veterans, they're making a lot of noise over there. And the veterans are really appreciated and respected, and they will be honored during that event in Eindhoven. Thank you for your son's service. Okay, now I go on with my speech. USA BMX, thank you for your hospitality and allowing me to say a few words. Again, normally I do it by heart, but to keep within the time limit, I put something on paper. First of all, congratulations to all inductees and especially my friends, the Esser family. George was my mentor in the early days, so that's, for me, it's also a special event. Thank you for those who voted for George. And it's well deserved. And I hear a lot of people say a little bit too late maybe, but it's there anyway. I am proud to call George my friend and mentor. In fact, Greg already told a little bit about that. In fact, Greg Esser, Tadashi Inoue from Japan, and myself should have been at the UCI Congress today in Florence, Italy. And I'll explain why. On July 10th, the three of us received an invitation by Pat McQuaid to be present at the UCI Congress. And the reason was, during the UCI Management Committee meeting held in Bergen, Norway on June the 13th and the 14th, it was decided that to award George Esser, Tadashi Inoue and myself the UCI merit for all service rendered to the UCI. It was some unfinished business from the transfer from IBMXF towards into the UCI. This UCI merit would have been presented to us at the end of the Congress in Florence. However, we already arranged early this year to be present at the Hall of Fame ceremony in Chula Vista. I did not want to miss this induction of my dear friend George Esser, so for me it was more important to come over here than to go over there. I explained that through the secretary of Mr. Thank you. I explained that to the secretary of Mr. Pat McQuaid. He understood that. And he allowed me to present the UCI merit to George through you too. Mr. Inoue should have been here also. It's today his 74th birthday, but I'm sorry to say that he has been ill and they didn't advise him to come over here. Main reason for this award, as I said before, is the fact that the three of us were the original founder members, live founder members of the IBMXF, which now is integrated since 1996 into the UCI. We tried to have Mr. Pat McQuaid, the president of the UCI, to introduce the three of us through a video, but he decided that the request, mainly because his focus was on the Congress 100%, not to go into this request. Now I changed one page, I'm almost there. Wait a minute. The problem was that he had to concentrate himself on the Congress, and I tell you why. He was in for re-election for the presidency, but it seemed that there is some kind of dirty war going on. I have seen such big articles in the papers between Mr. Brian McCookson from England and our dear Mr. McQuaid. And I wonder what the results has been, because now it will be known who is the president of the UCI. I don't know if anybody knows it already. McQuaid? Or Cookson? That's what I thought. Yeehaw. So I could understand why Mr. McQuaid didn't want to help us out with a nice video. Anyway, it's my pleasure and honor to present the UCI merit, being an award and a pin, to my dear friend George Esser through his sons. Even I am getting nervous now. This is the award, and I will read what it says. International Cycle Union. The International Cycle Union has the honor of awarding the UCI merit to Mr. George E. Esser, awarded posthumously. Help me out here. Posthumously. Thank you very much. With this official distinction, the International Cycle Union recognizes and thanks Mr. Esser for his long-term dedication and significant contribution to the development of BMX as a founder of the International BMX Federation in 1981, awarded on 27th of September 2013, former UCI President Pat McQuaid.
Thank you very much.
And I got a present for Craig too. With this award comes a nice pin. I don't know if you can see it. No, I don't think so. Well, I will give this to Craig.
I get the pin.
You get the pin.
I get the pin. That's a weapon for you.
Last but not least, what I want to say, for me is very important preserving the history of BMX and keeping and creating the tradition in our sport of BMX through times. And during the development of our sport into being an Olympic sport, it's essential to remain accepted, to be accepted and recognized as an Olympic sport in the future. It's absolutely necessary that we have also preserve our history. Respect for the UCI BMX organization in doing the above through, among others, this Hall of Fame activity. It's very important. Wish you all the very best for the future, and thank you very much. And it says 000.